Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today we're going to be unboxing Fireteam Zero. This game is by Emergent Games and is actually currently on Kickstarter. That's right. So right now, as of this recording, there is 14 days left to go in the Kickstarter campaign. It's a second printing Kickstarter, so it's not the first time the game's been out. This game has been out through a previous Kickstarter release and is now going for its second printing. This is going to include a lot of extra things in terms of, I guess, another way to put it is there was a lot included in the first Kickstarter, and this second one is going to allow for even more to be added to the game. If you enjoyed it, then it's a perfect time to jump in and add to the game you may already love. Now, this particular game here in front of you, I'm going to be unboxing to show you exactly what you would get if you were opening up the main box of Fireteam Zero. So this will help you decide whether or not you want to back this particular Kickstarter or not. And so regardless, I'm going to show you the insides of the box, but first I'm just going to talk a little bit about their campaign. So as of right now, they have raised, they've gone past their funded goal of 40,000 and made it to 87,000 as of this recording. They have 877 backers. They have numerous different levels for pledges, including one that has an all-in pledge, which is absolutely insane and would give you absolutely everything they've created for the game. They also have some lower-tiered ones if you just want the core set, which would be like what you're seeing in front of me. However, don't forget there would be stretch goals included as well, and if I have time in this video, I'll talk and show those as well. If not, we'll have to wait until another video. But this is at least for the core box. So the game itself, though, in terms of what it's about, that's kind of the real key. Now, this thing is a, as it says on the box here, squad tactics and horror board game. Pretty easy to tell that from the front of the box. The actual blurb about the game itself says it's a cooperative game for up to 4 players. So again, you can play this solo easily in kind of the same vein as you would something like Zombicide or somewhere along those lines, although this is nothing like Zombicide in any way, shape, or form. I'm just using that for comparative talk in terms of playing co-op, alone that is, in solo play. So you can play up to four players who must cut a path through an endless swarm of deadly monsters in order to discover and defeat the ultimate evil behind them. So each player possesses a set of brutal skills. They're going to have cards that can devastate the creatures. The battle is fought across 3 maps of increasing difficulty, each one getting more and more tougher. Players have to search for and complete mission objectives in order to progress, getting them closer to the final showdown. There's the NPCs that can show up in the game with an uncanny ability to sense location and nature of different energies in the game. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's also a race against time as the creatures on board become stronger and more cunning. The longer you take to complete your objectives, the more monster twist cards are revealed, and so each one grants you a new and terrible aspect to your enemy, which is never fun, but it can be a blast actually if you're playing against that. And of course, all the different sets of missions that you're going to face, you're going to have different special abilities and twist cards. There's a really cool twist mechanic where as time goes through the game, twists will occur and it'll change the face of the game and how the enemies actually are played, or it might morph them or give them new abilities. So in other words, if you think you know what your enemy is all about, the game has ways of kind of bending that on you a little bit as you go through it. So you think you've got it figured out, but it can really come back to haunt you. The game apparently plays in 60 to 90 minutes per mission, but that's enough about the actual content of the game. What we're going to do here is focus on the unboxing. For those of you who listen to this to this point, thank you, because this is more of an unboxing video than it is a game description, but I will be putting a quick little timestamp in this video to say right now at the 4-minute mark, basically, we're going to start unboxing this thing. So for those of you who just skipped to here, this is what you've been waiting for. So we're going to go ahead and crack into this monster. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video this thing was big, and I'm not kidding. It's huge. The box depth is ridiculously thick. I think it's beating Black... I think it actually beats Massive Darkness even in thickness. It's huge. If I was to put my hand across it, my hand covers basically the entire box width. It's pretty impressive. So a very large box. It says up here 1 to 4 players, 14 plus, 1 to 2 hours, as I mentioned. If we flip this over to the back, again, it's some really cool artwork on all sides of the box and stuff like that. Very, very nice. And then, of course, it has a little description of what's going on in the back. There's tons of reflection here, so that's no good just yet. But I'll pull this over. We'll cut into it. I'll show you without all the glare there, so it'll make it easier for you guys to actually see it. All right, so let's rip into this thing. Now, I don't know how long this is going to take me to get through this box. It could be the entire video. It might take the entire video just to see everything, because this, like I said, this thing is huge. Even taking this wrapping paper off is quite the work involved. Okay, and I think I've just given myself a paper cut. Oh yeah, that's delicious. Let's see if we can get some blood. You know what? It's a horror game, so it would be much better and more effective if I was bleeding on the box as I unboxed it, correct? Would that not, like, add to the drama? I think so. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I actually am bleeding. That's impressive. Okay, I'm going to continue on regardless of the blood. Because, you know, when you're playing a game that involves lots of killing, and the really cool thing about this one is it's all squad-based tactics, so that's going to be the coolest part of this. Is I don't really have anything that's kind of got that war vibe going to it. Of course, I've got a few games that have this kind of, you know, crazy, demented enemies coming at you from all angles. I've got quite a few of those games, but nothing that's like a squad tactics-based game, so I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out. Anyway, let's crack the box open here. And I'm doing my best here not to bleed onto the box because that would be embarrassing. Here we go. Okay, so we got a really cool insert on the front here. So it looks like kind of like a symbol of a wolf. So I'm just going to flip this up so we can get some focus here. Actually, the camera doesn't even want to focus on it. It's very, very blurry at the moment. So let me just pull this out and I'll get it to focus closer up. So yeah, there's a lot of shimmer, and what it's probably doing is it's probably causing the camera to freak out a little bit. There we go, we got it back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So there's a kind of a picture of like a wolf on the front of this thing, I think, of some type. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off to the side for just now. I'm also going to shuffle this thing off to the right, and we're going to bring this back into focus. We're going to cut into this because this is going to actually start showing off some of the miniatures, which I'm sure is what you guys actually want to see. So this is, I imagine, my guess would be is that this is what's filled with miniatures. So let's just pull this to the side, pop this open. Yep, this is going to be lots and lots and lots of guys. All right, let's see what we got here. Wow. Okay, that's a lot. So here's the first tray, and it has 2 levels to it. So it's not just what you're seeing. There's more to it underneath. I'm going to go ahead and try to give you guys a close-up of some of the miniatures there. I might have to put my hand underneath to get it some focus, but there you go. So it's some pretty cool. Now this is obviously the squad itself. So these are going to be like your characters as you go through the game. And then of course above it is just deformed and nasty monsters that are running around. And each one, from my understanding, is going to have its own set of cards. And each of those cards are going to kind of give it its AI feel. The only thing I compare this to off the top without having played it just yet is it has mechanics similar to, and playstyle similar to Gears of War. From what I've been hearing, again, I haven't played it, so don't take that with a grain of salt. But essentially in terms of its AI deck, that's kind of the gist. So you can see there's some other guys that are completely different up here in the top right. So each row has a set of about 4 each all the way down. Okay, now we're going to go over here and I'm going to flip this one over. We'll take a look at these guys. Well, these guys look super pleasant. Holy, these dice are massive. I didn't think they were this big. Okay, so there's some huge dice. I thought these were like, wow, these are insanely massive. I'll pull those out in a second, but you can tell just on the screen, those are huge. You got some, it looks like another character there. Some really friendly looking guys there. So their heads have obviously seen better days. And then you've got some creatures here that are kind of like swamp-like creatures, but it looks like there is a head coming out of their mouth. It looks kind of like a tail or something. It looks horrific, but that's essentially what this game is all about. There's a really cool story behind all this. So one thing I will mention, guys, if you're not familiar with the game, one thing I do know about it is they have really cool mission briefings. So this little flyer that you're seeing or saw earlier when I opened the box has all the mission briefings inside of it, but the game includes a CD that actually has voice-acted mission briefings. So you can actually put it in your CD player and you can actually literally really get into the game and have somebody actually thematically give you a storyline prior to going into your mission, which I think is really cool. And there's a lot of games that probably could use something like that. And I really enjoy it when a game company goes an extra step to bring the thematic feel a little bit more heavy. So I think that's really cool. Okay, so that's that. I'll show you the dice here because again, like I was really surprised by how absolutely massive they were. So let's see if I can pull this out. Yeah, these are huge dice. Okay, so I'm just going to show you an example of a few of them here. So here's the dice. You can tell they're massive. They're huge dice. They have bullets, they have fists, grenades. This one here, I'm not too sure what that green one's for. It could be like a monster die of some type. But there's not just, there's quite a bit of them. There's, how many here? We got 5, 6, 7. So there's 8 white dice, 1 of the green, and then it looks like this is a D12. So, interesting. Again, I can't speak to exactly how they're used or whatever, but obviously the white ones are going to be the ones you're more and most, probably most used based on the quantity you get. So that goes without saying, essentially. This one here, holy. So here's some bigger guys. So inside the box, here are your kind of main boss monsters, from my understanding. So there's one. He's pretty nasty looking, coming out of the ground. This guy here who's got like, these are pretty big miniatures. They're very, very nice. They fill up the hand quite good. They're large. And they are not happy individuals. You're probably not going to want to meet them in the game. And there's guys like this. This guy actually kind of reminds me a little bit of something I saw from Shadows of Brimstone, actually, but a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more angry, and again, something you don't want to meet in the game, probably. So those are like probably the bosses of the base game. So that's really cool. I'm going to put these off to the side because we've talked now about the miniatures. Let's bring the rest of the box back into view here. We already talked real quick about mission briefings. Now it says right here, sensitive compartmented information, Erebus clearance required. So Erebus, something like that. So again, I'm not going to show you everything because I don't want to spoil some stuff. But essentially, we've got a book here with actual operations inside of it, telling you, what to do and stuff like that, how to set up your different scenarios and stuff like that. It shows like a spawn pool, your mission objectives, twist decks, like what enemies are showing up, your recon deck, all these kind of things. All like very, very cool artwork, as well as pretty cool like setups for the actual layouts themselves, and each one is an operation. So I just moved from Act 1 to Act 2, and I don't know how these actually intertwine, but this is essentially a book full of them. And I'm sorry guys if you're hearing my lips smacking quite often. That's me actually trying to clean up the blood that's pouring out of my finger, because I care about this unboxing so much. I'm choosing not to let it bother me. So it sounds a little ridiculous. Okay, so this one here this is the rulebook itself. This is actually quite large because, again, the box is really big, so it makes the rulebook fairly thin. So as you can see, it's not a very thick rulebook, but it's a very big rulebook in terms of how much size it takes up on the table. But again, really, really easy to read. That's a huge debriefing. That's really cool, actually. So I'm going to show you guys that because that looks really interesting. So there's like a artifact debrief. So again, in terms of its effort to pull you into the theme, they really kind of went over and above. Again, like I said with the CD, in terms of voice acting and also with the mission briefings and things like that. Here I'll give you an example of another page. So there's your setup page. Talks about missions and operations, the story behind it. Again, these are all the steps. So when we go through the rolling solo showcase, we're going to be going through all the steps on setup. So I'll show you how to get this thing to the table as fast as possible so we can play through it. And actually, to be totally honest, there's not that many pages to it. So it looked probably like there was quite a bit, but there's 10 pages. So it's really not a big book. And there's even a handy reference on the back, which is really nice. And I love seeing stuff like this for the sequence of play. So like tactics, how you play through that, how you play through the hero phase, then the threat phase, all the way down. And that's perfect. Those are the kind of things I'd love to see in games. Although I technically prefer to see them in most cases cut out, like in a hard cardboard kind of form. And maybe I'll end up, I don't like it facing my rulebook, so I don't know if I'll end up doing that. Moving on, we've got ourselves this is the twist kind of playmat area. So essentially you can see first twist, second, third, and final. So as you move through the game, and again, I can't speak to it too much, but as you go through the threats, you're going to hit these certain symbols, and they're going to tell you to draw those twists. This is where the game changes up every single time, so if you replay a certain scenario a few times, you're not going to be able to just bank on knowing the enemy and its AI. You're actually going to have to deal with twists. They're going to throw things off the rails on you and then adapt, and that's where the squad tactics come into play. We've also got a big token sheet here. So from my understanding, these 12 tokens are typically always in play. in almost all scenarios, and again relate to what you're actually trying to search to find. Because it's a squad tactical board game, there's a lot of search and recon in this one, so you're always trying to find something, potentially escort somebody, that kind of thing. So again, because it's got that army base to it in terms of its theme and stuff like that, they're always trying to have you search through objective tokens on the map to find it. And of course, you're limited and restricted by the fact that monsters are constantly surrounding you all the time and cutting off routes to particular objectives maybe and things like that. Again, there's a bunch of other tokens I can't really speak to yet, but they obviously add their gameplay elements. They seem they're very sizable, like in terms of size, they're quite big. They're a little bit bigger than average and stuff like that, so there's no issue seeing them on the boards. So this is where we get to the tiles. So this is interesting actually, because I've never seen a game actually come with the tiles pre-punched out like this. So this is really cool actually. So here's like a punch out of the interior of a tile. This is actually nice. I don't have to punch anything out. But essentially, there you go. I guess I'm used to things like Shadows of Brimstone, but where you have to punch like literally everything out. So here's like an outdoor scene. So you can kind of see, you're looking top down. So you can kind of see like there's a place into the woods. There's trees in certain areas. Obviously, I don't know what these symbols mean per se just yet, but I guarantee you I'll be finding out as we go through it. So there's one tile back in front. We'll pull the next one here and I'll show you that. This one has kind of like a gigantic center area that I'm sure you can't just traverse through easily. A little conference room set up, although not the friendliest looking conference room. You can see they put some detail into some of the things going on in each of the rooms. It's pretty cool. So we'll flip this one over now and see what's in the back. It seems like it's indoor-outdoor is kind of what they're going through with each of these tiles. So this is really cool. I really like the top down of the buildings. That, to me, now this came out, if I'm not mistaken, before Conan did. But this kind of gives me that vibe of Conan in terms of its layout outside. So it's really cool. It's like a mix of like indoor-outdoor stuff. I really think that's nice to be able to change that up, play different missions. And the other thing, if you guys are noticing, the grid patterns on the actual tiles themselves are very different. So like on an interior location, a lot of them are squares, but none of them are the same size. We're not talking like a game where it takes a tile this size, divides it into 9 equal squares, and that's your movement. There's some really odd shapes to this stuff. So you have certain areas where you can hold up in a whole tile area, and that's one spot, and then the room's one, that type of thing. And like we just saw with the outdoor areas, they vary very greatly in terms of their size and how they look. Like some of these are taking up large areas, so that's where the tactics come in. Is again, if an objective happens to be placed in a certain area over here and you're over here, there's some strategy in terms of how you go about getting there and stuff like that. So that's going to be really cool to play through, finding out what's the best option at the same time as being chased through the woods by all these monsters. So again, another interior type tile. This looks like could be a tower. It could be the inside of a tower. It could be the inside of a building. There's like a street area. This could be interior. This is definitely interior from what I can tell. I don't know for sure. One of the scenarios will probably help me with that. And again, another outside terrain area. So that's pretty cool. This one here. This one looks like it's underground. So it looks like you're kind of heading down underground a little bit into some caves. There's a light over there, that type of thing. Flip it over to the side. Oh wow, so you have like a full bunker area kind of thing. So I guess this is like, kind of looks like the interior of, this is a hard one to tell. Oh no, there's a gate right there. So it looks like you're kind of coming into a property area there. So it's kind of like an army base or bunker of some type. Again, some more tiles that have to do with going underground and things like that. Part of how these white lines show up on this makes me feel like I should be able to punch them, but you actually don't punch these out. This is how they look. Because again, that's underground terrain, so you can't be in the black area. Again, we've got another, this is kind of a cool outdoor one. So it's not like a curved angle, again with some buildings and different terrain elements. I'm really excited to find out what this means. Like they have all these symbols on each of these particular things, and I'm sure it has to do with terrain movement and how easy it is to get around. Some of them probably are blocked and whatnot. Here's another interior tile. So there's one with some like crates and things like that. This looks like to be water, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's some water right there, kind of breaking it up, so that would be tough to get through. And then, there you go. You got a car kind of parked on the side of the road with its headlights on, and kind of the fountain and the store set up over there. A boardwalk-ish kind of. Oh no, that's not a boardwalk. That might be the top of roofs of houses. This one didn't exactly go so well. It's been blown out. How many more are in here? One more, okay. And then a cave, another huge cave, very interesting kind of oath. So that's going to be, again, things like this are very interesting because you'd be playing some interesting tactics with the enemies with that one. Running around in a circle trying to avoid them. And again, another outdoor tile. So there's kind of your general look and feel of the game. And then at the very bottom of the game is actually a really nice, from what I can tell anyway, a tray, which is cool because not only is it good enough to store the cards in the base game, as you can tell, there's a lot of room in here for sleeve cards. As you can see, there's space around all the edges. So if you're one of those people like me at times who likes to sleeve a game all the way, you can go crazy and sleeve all of the cards. So that's really awesome. If you don't want to, you have room for all your expansions as well, which is probably what most people would want to do, is keep their expansions in here too. So you've got a deck of twist cards here. You've got a deck of recon cards down here. Again, none of these are going to add, I'm not going to be able to add any value to this stuff just now. But later on, when we talk about the actual playthrough and the rules and the setup, I'll be able to speak to these a little bit better. So these are each of the packs. And of course, this really cool metal coin. So it comes with like a metal coin, which has a gameplay element. So it's a Liberty coin. It says, "In God We Trust," 1940. The really cool thing about this, and I could be totally off base, but I believe when something happens in terms of, I don't know if it's a squad death or something like that, you flip it. And I think if something bad happens again and it happens to be on the side, you're dead. So, but there's actually a gameplay element that if you flip it the first time, you can actually potentially bring it back. So in other words, you're kind of playing this game where like you have two swings and you're out, but you can always potentially bring the coin back to the positive side. And I'll have to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the rules, so that you guys can understand that better, because I'm probably doing a horrible job of explaining that. Dice-wise, there's a perfect spot for the dice as well as whatever else. This is exactly what I was talking about in terms of their CD, so they actually include that CD. And as you can see, the Fireteam Zero core set, it has all of the dialogue throughout all the mission briefings for everything included in this particular core set. And as you can see, there's quite a bit. There's 30 different tracks inside this CD for all the different acts and mission briefings and all this kind of stuff. So that's really cool, a really cool thematic element. And again, I see stuff like this in Shadows of Brimstone, and I love it, although it wasn't mission briefing. So this is something new. I've never had a game that's had their missions done with dialogue. Typically, or at least on audio, typically I just get a CD that you can listen to music while playing a game. That's nice too, because it gives thematic feel, but I can tell you right now, having someone actually voice over the debriefing or the mission briefs and stuff like that would just be incredible. So that'll be real fun. So hopefully this was informative for you guys. That's basically it. If I was to lift up this, I don't think there's any treasures underneath the insert, but the insert seems strong enough to withstand whatever I would throw at it. But I'm excited. So if you guys are excited as I am as this one, give me a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Let them know that this thing is out there in terms of my showcase. It will be coming. I will be doing it basically probably in tandem with 7th Continent and Hoplomachus Origins here, or at some point I'll be switching out. But I'll be doing them as fast as possible so that I can get a couple of these out maybe near the tail end of its Kickstarter, so you guys can see a little bit more about the game to make a better decision as to whether you want to jump in or not. If you've already played the game before, because this has already been out, and this is not the first time it's been out, if you've played it before and you have thoughts and opinions on it, please fire them in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you're excited to see the playthrough and stuff like that. So thank you again, guys, for all your support. Hopefully this was really informative for you, and I will catch you in the next episode for Fireteam Zero by Emergent Games. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and keep on rolling solo.